Well, sickos, tonight's a big deal, because in Raleigh, at 9 o'clock, the Obsessed and the Skull are playing at the Poorhouse in Raleigh. Yes, and then there's an opening band, Lie Heavy. I've never heard them before, but hopefully they're pretty good. It'll be my first metal show since December 2019. The last real metal show I went to was Jenna Torturers in Charlotte. It was a really good show. But of course, life happened, the world happened, and the past month and a half I've been in catch-up mode, really. You know, seeing all my friends, seeing all my family, eating at my favorite restaurants, doing things I haven't been able to do since COVID hit. And the only thing missing from all of that is receiving loud sound waves of the metal variety. I saw The Obsessed a couple years ago. They were opening for Clutch and the Devin Townsend Project, and as good as Clutch and the Devin Townsend Project were, The Obsessed blew both bands away. So, I am really looking forward to that. And since Scott played with the Mentors for a little while back in the 80s, I'm thinking about just going there with my huge Mentor shirt. Thank you, Chuck, and thank you, Betsy, for sending this over. Since it's such a late show, I'm gonna have to fill up my time as much as possible. You know, maybe get some new jeans, listen to the metal, shower, the usual stuff. Okay, so we got the vlogger camera angle going on now, and now here's my vlogger face. After all this time, it is now time for mother fucking metal.
And a huge shout out to the Poorhouse for having us on this bill, man. The fucking Poorhouse, man, doing it right by their people. This is the club, man. This is the model. This is the model. Hats off to Adam and the whole crew, man. Seriously, I can't say that enough, man. This is the way to do it. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Love to bring music to you. Unfortunately, the Skull dropped off the tour for reasons we're not quite sure, but we're here.
It was awesome. Everything I missed about going to shows was all there that night. Seeing friends, seeing people I hadn't seen in years, the obligatory pizza before the show, observing the merch, and of course, receiving the sound of metal into my eardrums. It was all fun and games, and both bands were really good. That's right, I said both bands. Only the Obsessed and Lie Heavy played. The Skull, unfortunately, had to drop off the tour because members of the band got COVID. I will resume this issue in a few minutes because it unfortunately has a bitter ending. But as for the music itself, Lie Heavy was really good, the singer had a really good stage presence, and the Obsessed, of course, they were as good as always. That St. Vitus pentagram sounding doom metal, such great stuff. And of course the drummer had a bell, which just adds points to your badassery, in my opinion. It was a really good night, and in a way it was a glimmer of hope, just being able to do something that brought me so much joy in the past, before COVID hit. Unfortunately, COVID had a way of rearing its head in more ways than one. Starting with a few days after the show, I got an email from the venue saying that somebody in the band Lie Heavy got COVID, likely from the show. So they recommended that all who attended go get tested. I had to go to 6 different Walgreens and CVS stores before I could find one that was not completely sold out of COVID tests. Fortunately, I came back negative. Because of this, the poorhouse decided to change their policies. Now they're going to require masks and vaccine cards before anybody enters, which they didn't do at the show that night, for whatever reason. And then, of course, a few days later, Wino from The Obsessed, he decided to go on this big anti-mask rant on Facebook. 2 evenings ago, I received an email from Psycho Las Vegas, wherein they informed me and other artists that this event would require that all people, attendees, and artists wear a mask at all times indoors. The exception only being while singing on stage. All non-singing musicians, band members, etc. are required to wear masks during the performance. This includes drummers. Also, as soon as the performance is over, artists will be required to redon masks in the backstage, front of house, VIP lounges, and common areas. I have dug very deep when researching COVID-19, not just on YouTube, but in scientific publications, journals, lectures, etc. I believe the virus exists and has been weaponized, as has been proven in congressional hearings where the evidence is overwhelming. Our government has been complicit in the financing and shared scientific lab work, creating a SARS-based blah 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 blemity blue, CDC and PCR tests inaccurate, backtrack, blah 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 blah. My personal beliefs are we are under the authoritarian cloak of the so-called elite who are beyond rich and consequently consider themselves above the common man. This virus, I believe, was created as a depopulation tool with fear, blah blah blah. I cannot in good conscience perform my music in an environment that is designed to take away individuality, civil liberties, and free will. I will not be performing this night at Psycho Las Vegas, not out of fear, but principle. If we the people continue to blindly accept this tyranny, we are destined for enslavement. These are my personal views, but it's time to wake up. Sounds to me like we're not the ones that need to wake up, man. Both of your opening bands got COVID.
Now that the festival is over, it looks like they enforced the mask mandate more for the audience than they did with the bands. There were still plenty of unmasked people there, of course, but it wouldn't have been quite the dictatorial dystopia as envisioned in the rant. Keep in mind that this was supposed to be a Wino solo appearance instead of a full-on Obsessed show.
But also, he's not that big, he's not that famous. If bigger and, frankly, better bands could have sucked it up and wore the damn masks, then he could have done it too, so... And then we come to the Skull. I've already mentioned that the Skull had to drop off the tour because members of the band got COVID, and unfortunately, one of them didn't recover. It only took a few days before Eric Wagner was put on a ventilator and put in the ICU, and unfortunately on the 22nd, he died. COVID pneumonia. He was 62 years old and unvaccinated. Absolutely horrible news. He was an excellent singer. I've always loved him in Trouble. I love Trouble. They're a great band. Great American doom metal. I definitely jammed some Psalm 9 and some Manic Frustration afterwards. But it's a little frustrating because, at 62 years old, somebody who drank and smoked and partied all his life like he did, and then he decided to go on tour all over the country and play in front of thousands of different people, and he wasn't vaccinated. He didn't have to die. I realize, of course, that I'm going to alienate some people by saying some of these things, and you have a right to your opinion. I just don't have to respect your opinion. Because people are going to go, oh, well, freedom this, freedom that. Oh, sheep this, sheep that. Oh, you can't make me take this. You shouldn't tell everybody else what to do. See, and that's where the problem lies, because Eric, people have tried to get him to take the vaccine. They begged him to do it, and he stood his ground against it. He stood his ground against institutionalized medicine. Yep, he stood his ground all right, and what did it cost him? It cost him his life. Let this be a reminder. This isn't over. Now is not the time to get complacent. He didn't have to die. His death probably could have been prevented. Sure, he might have still gotten COVID, but it would have lessened the effects if he had just, done the jab. Of course people are going to say, oh, do your research, do your research. Yeah, listen to the medical experts, okay? they've studied this stuff for years and years and years. Some weird uncle on Facebook doesn't know more about COVID than a doctor.
On August 29th, Wino did say a few nice things about Eric while addressing his previous post. The abridged version is, some have suggested the timing of my statement was insensitive, but I'm not indifferent towards Eric's death. I don't read small-minded comments, I'm surprised the metal genre's feathers get ruffled when someone thinks outside the box, blah blah blah. You have a right to your opinion, I have a right to mine. Well, my opinion is that it's a damn shame the skull got dealt such a shitty hand. I was really looking forward to seeing them.
There were two reasons I decided to wait on this video. For one, it seemed like the further away I got from the show, the more things seemed to escalate. Between people catching COVID, dying from COVID, stupid fucking anti-mask rants being made on Facebook, and of course the poorhouse having to close down because half the staff got COVID. And also, I didn't want to be that guy that's having to give a safety lecture after somebody just died, so I wanted to show respect to Eric, his friends, his family, his fans. But I feel like enough time has passed, so here we are. You know, enjoy things now while you can, and also be safe while you do so. Whatever shows I go to in the next few months, I'll be masking up, of course. Anybody who doesn't like it, get over yourselves. Anyway, may Eric Wagner rest in peace. I'll be jamming some trouble for the next while. Everybody stay safe out there. Grind on.